What's going on, everybody? Final Fantasy Friday is back, and I couldn't be more excited. Now, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent here, so if you want to just get to the game, feel free to skip ahead for a few minutes, but I want to talk about what exactly we're doing here, and what that is we are playing this game on original hardware, and I'm gonna show you my setup in just a second here, but let me talk really quickly about why I'm doing that. This is one of my favorite games ever made, and emulators just weren't cutting it for me. I really wanted to do this game justice. It was really important to me to have not only a really accurate representation of what this game was on the original hardware, but I also wanted it to look good. So let's check out the setup right now. This is in my office. That's the original Super Nintendo, and here is an SNES game controller, but what's really interesting is right back here. This is an HD Retrovision cable to get a component signal out of your Super Nintendo, and here is the RetroTink 2X Pro to upscale the signal into something that can be understood by modern hardware. And there they are all together. Aren't they beautiful? And now that I've managed to show you that, I want to talk about what kind of playthrough this is going to be. This is not going to be a 100%, completionist playthrough. I'm not going to show every single random encounter in the game or anything like that. Nothing so intense as we did with the first one. But I am going to talk about some of the differences between this USA version and the Japanese version. Growing up, I had always heard that things were cut from the Japanese version. There were a lot of changes made to the American version, and I was always really curious about that. So I'm going to tell you all about all of the differences as they come up through the game. I'm going to kind of be your tour guide for this one, and we're going to have a ton of fun playing it. I think it's going to look really good. The pixels are going to be extra crispy, and I hope that you really enjoy it. So with that out of the way, let's get to the game. Crew, Captain Cecil, we are about to arrive. Cecil says, good. And the crew, talking among themselves, says, why are we robbing crystals from innocent people? And other crew members reply, that's our duty. Do we really have to keep doing this? The crew says, give us the crystal of water. And the elder says, what have we done? Cecil says, the crystal or your life, and the Black Wizard replies, never. Then take the crystal by force. And the Black Wizard says, wah! No, don't! And the crew asks, dare to defy us? And they kill the White Wizard, too. We're out here killing Black Wizards and White Wizards. Are we the good guys? The Elder says, my, all right, take the crystal. And the crew says, you should have said it earlier. The Elder says, why is the King of Baron doing this? Why do you pursue the crystals so eagerly? And Cecil doesn't reply. And the crew says, we take pride in being members of the Redwings. Looting is out of the question. And Cecil says, stop it. Captain, we can't stand doing this anymore. And he says, listen. Possessing the crystal is an essential factor for our prosperity. Moreover, His Majesty judged that Mysidians know too much about the secret of the crystal. We are the Redwings, the Air Force of the Kingdom of Baron. The royal command is absolute. Captain! Monsters! Cecil says, take up fighting positions. And in these battles, there's something that I want to point out. Cecil's going to use a firebomb there. The crew says, ouch! And Cecil says, you okay? More coming? And Cecil says, watch out! And here he's going to use an item called lit bolts. Now, I always wondered about these when I was a kid because they happen here and never show up in the rest of the game. And right off the bat, we have something that is a difference between the Japanese version and the American version, where there are a big number of different spellcasting items in the Japanese version. All of those were cut out of the American version, despite the fact that they're in the opening cutscene. So we will never see those again. Cecil says, everyone okay? Yes, sir. But there are too many monsters these days. Too many agreed. What's happening? We're over Baron, and Cecil says, make a landing. And man, does this game look good. And I just want to point out what a banger Flight of the Redwings is. That's the song playing for that scene. And then right after that, we have this castle music that's so good. Nobuo Uematsu is a genius. Anyway, Baigan says, oh, Cecil, is it the Crystal of Water? And Cecil says, but Mysidians were so helpless. What are you trying to say? This way, Cecil. Baigan says, please wait here. And I hate Baigan so much, he's just whispering in the king's ear. Your Majesty, I'm afraid Cecil has developed quite a rebellious air. The king says, truly, well done, Baigan. We must do something. Call him in. Yes, Your Majesty. Cecil, His Majesty summons you. Please come in. The king says, we thank you for successfully completing the mission. Now where is it? And Cecil says, here, my liege. And I just want to point out the way that the music drops out here. And we hand over the crystal. That's one of the poor translations. We're going to see lots of those. Real crystal. And they're so creepy. The king says, good. Cecil, you may leave now. Your Majesty. What? What is it? And Cecil says, we do not understand the meaning of taking crystals away from honest people. The king says, disobeying me? And Cecil says, no, I don't. The king says, we do know of your discontent, Cecil. If you cannot trust me, I can no longer place the Redwings in your command. You are dismissed from your post. And that's right, we got fired. And Cecil says, your Majesty. The king says, go hunt the summoned monsters of the Misty Valley, and take this package to the village Mist. You may depart tomorrow morning. And Kain says, your Majesty. Cecil didn't... The king says, if you're concerned about Cecil that much, go with him, Kain. And Cecil says, your Majesty. And the king says, now, leave with the package. And we receive the package. Your Majesty. But the king does not want to hear anything we have to say anymore. And Cecil says, sorry, Kain. Kain says, don't worry. He'll put you back in command of the Redwings after this mission. But, never mind. Go back to your room and take a rest. Walk in all directions using the control pad and talk to every person you meet using the A button. He's going to give us a tutorial like any good best friend would. You must be careful not to miss what they say. An unexpected person may give you information. And so we're going to do exactly that. Let's walk around and talk to everyone. If the king hears people talk about him like this, he'll be angry. And this guy says, treasure your life, which is good advice if you're going to mouth off to the king. The king will not see you until you have completed your mission. Okay? Let's move on then. And this guy says, I have faith in his majesty. And this one says, I feel something strange about the king lately. And that's sort of what was going on the Redwings. There's an amount of discontent where some people remain loyal, but some people feel like there's something strange going on, and there is something strange going on. The Misty Valley is in the northwest. That's good to know, because that's where we're going. If our Dragoon Kain and Cecil of the Redwings joined forces, there would be no match. I hope that that's true, because that's exactly what we're going to do. Kain says, what's wrong? Cecil says, sorry, Kain. Kain says, oh, stop that. I mastered the dark sword as commanded by his majesty, but it was to defend and not to rob. Kain says, do not blame yourself. His majesty must have his own reason. And so Kain is one of the people that seems still loyal to the king, but let's talk to him again. And he says, can't you sleep? Your room is at the top of the left tower. You better talk to all the people in this castle before going to the bed. I wonder if the tower is really called the left tower. And here's that room we came through earlier, so let's talk to these people. Heard you brought back the crystal of water from Mysidia. We sure did, and I don't feel good about it. He's like, I wasn't sleeping. I believe him. I don't know why, but I do. Alright, and here we are in Black Magic class. Sleep. Aren't you sleepy? And I love that guy because that's exactly how I feel when I cast sleep. You're like, hey monster, aren't you sleepy? And they're like, no. I'm working on the use of magic spells in battles right now. Some monsters are immune to the basic spells such as fire, ice, and lit. Must be more to learn. And so the elemental strengths and weaknesses are all at play in this game, but there is a lot more going on in this game. They've had a lot of time to refine the battle system, but we'll see that when we get to it. Rosa became White Wizard to be of help. Be nice to her. And that's good advice. Rosa is our girlfriend, and this White Mage says, be nice to your girlfriend. The king has become very energetic lately, but something is strange. Something is indeed strange. And you'll see me checking these pots. There are sometimes items in them, so I just can't help checking every single one I see. I'm studying the basics. I learned Cure 1 in my last class. That is a useful spell. I have casted Cure 1 a huge number of times during my time here on Earth. Take the treasure in this room. The switch is on the wall there. And this is just a little tutorial that doors that look like this will have switches next to them that we can interact with to open the door. And we find 300 gil, a Cure 1, and a tent. And right off the bat, Cure 1s were originally called potions, but they renamed them to sort of match the magic spells, I guess. But that's a weird change to me because you have these helpful sort of description texts up above that tell you what things do anyway, so I don't really know why they chose to rename that, but that is one of the differences that I was talking about. And let's head on over here. The treasure of Baron is stored here. No one is allowed. I mean, it can't be that, like, no one is allowed, right? Like, someone must be allowed. But certainly not us, so let's move on. I found a good place to goof off and take a nap. Oops. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, please don't tell our boss. You know what, buddy? Your secret's safe with me. Did you see our boss Sid anywhere? No, not yet. I have not seen Sid. This one's off limits. Okay. Not much more to explore here. So we'll head back the way we came a little bit. And let's try going out the front door. Salute. I feel something evil within this castle lately. Don't you, sir? Yes, I do, and his name is Baigan. I hate that guy. It'll be an early leave tomorrow morning. Please take a rest. It's too late. Better to stay in, sir. And yeah, everyone insists that we go to bed, so I suppose that's what we'll do. So let's head over to the left tower. And Rosa says, Cecil, you're not hurt? I was so anxious. Cecil says, we are not hurt. How could we be? The wizards didn't even raise their hands. Cecil, Can I see you later? And Cecil's a real cool customer. He says, yeah, later. And she takes one last look at us before she heads out. And let's check in here. The mages who didn't submit are confined here. You can talk to them over the cage. I guess it's good that we didn't kill them all, but seeing white and black mages in jail just feels wrong, right? You're that Dark Knight. I sure am, buddy. Please return the crystal to Mysidia. Well, I hate to tell you this, but I just got fired, and I don't think the king is gonna want to do that. You don't understand, the crystal is not just jewelry. And if you're a longtime series fan like I am, you already knew that. The crystals are not just shiny rocks that align your chakras. They are very, very important in this world. And Sid says, hey, Cecil. He's gonna wave at us over in the top right there. How's my airship doing? What's wrong? I was fired, maybe? And Sid says, what? Who's gonna command the Redwings then? I'm not sure what the king is thinking. He ordered me to make an airship, but I don't want it to be used as a weapon. Well, I gotta go home. I've been working all night, and my daughter is worried about me. And he's gonna take off, but Sid is going to be a recurring character in just about every Final Fantasy game ever from now on. I don't know if he actually appears before this one. Maybe somebody could let me know about that. Ouch, that hurts. This guy says, Captain, and then he falls right back asleep. I'm trying to forget about the things we did in Mysidia. Yeah, me too, buddy. The Redwings have lost their glitter. And that's another kind of weird translation. I think maybe luster would have been a better word, but it's probably fine. That mission has made me feel bad. Yeah, we're all not feeling great about what we were just made to do. And there's nothing up here, so the only place left is the left tower, where we're going to turn in for the night. God, I'm so happy to be playing this game. And our maid says, I've changed the sheets. Leaving early tomorrow morning, sir. Good night. And you know, it must be nice to have a maid. I wouldn't know. And let's get to bed. What happened to His Majesty? The crystal of Mysidia. Did we really have to snatch it from the peace-loving people? Never again, even if ordered. And Rosa didn't forget that we said we would see her later, so she pops by our room and says, Cecil. What's wrong? You're not quite yourself lately. And Cecil says, nothing. Then, please don't look away. In Mysidia, we had to rob from the innocent people. Oh dear. I am just a Dark Knight with no courage to disobey His Majesty. The real Cecil I know would never whimper like this. And Rosa says you're going to miss tomorrow, right? If anything should happen to you. And Cecil says, don't worry, Kain is coming too. It's late. Go back to your room. Rosa says, take care. Thanks, Rosa. Still, I am just a Dark Knight. And dawn breaks, and Cecil and Kain are going to get together to head out to Mist. Let's go, Cecil. Outside the castle is the city of Baigan. Let's gather information and equipment in the city. Oh, and this just sends a chill up my spine. The callback to the first game in this opening scene when the king builds the bridge northward. Oh my god, it sounds so good. Thus, the Dark Knight Cecil was expelled from his command as a captain of the Redwings. And he and Dragoon Kain left Baigan for the village Mist in a valley enclosed in deep fog. Airships had been a dream of many people. After the realization of the dream came greed and ambition. Through its fleet of airships, Baigan became the most powerful nation. But why is Baigan seeking the crystals? Why do the monsters keep increasing? The crystal was shedding its light silently. Oh, God, it's so good, and I'm just gonna take a moment to enjoy this overworld music, too. Oh, man, every piece of music in this game is an absolute banger. But, right now, we want to explore the town of Baigan. And we find a Cure 1 right there. Let's go ahead and talk to this guy. This is the training room for you warriors. We teach you how to advance in your adventure. You better listen to the instructions or you may not go far. And we'll check that out in just a second, but the training room is definitely a big difference between the USA version and the Japanese version, but we'll get to that when we pop in there. Let's check out the inn first. Why are you wearing such dark armor? Are you a bad guy? Maybe? Wanted great dancers. Ask at the counter, Baronian Inn. And we don't need to stay at the inn for right now. But let's check all these pots and see if we can't find some free cure potions. And over here, we can interact with these swords and open this door and open all these chests. Just kind of rob the inn blind, I guess. Tent, a heal potion, and a cure potion. And I suppose I'll wait until I get to the item shop to talk a little bit more about what's going on with some of the potions, but the heal potion is a big difference. This woman says, Cecil, I've done nothing. I've never failed to pay the taxes. Yeah, we're kind of like a strong-arm bully, almost. People are afraid of us. Welcome, Mr. Dark Knight. Money? No, I can't charge you. I mean, it must be nice to drink for free, but it seems like we could easily be a better person and probably still drink for free? Who knows? Cecil of the Redwing. Misty Valley is beyond the Cave of Northwest. So we're going to have to go through the cave to get to the City of Mist. Why is the king training the soldiers how to use the Sword of Dark Side? That's a good question. Why would he be doing that? This woman says, don't go to Mist. It will be awful. I can tell. And I hope that she's wrong, but something tells me she might be right. And right here, we have a locked door. And now, it's a little bit weird that the start of the game has the weapons and armor shop locked, but we are already fully decked out. Kain's wearing iron gear, and I'm wearing all shadow equipment. And I suppose while we're at the screen, we can talk about this a little bit. This system actually works very similar to the very first game for the NES. You have one weapon slot and 4 armor slots for the rest. So you've got arms, body, head, and left hand. There are going to be some characters that use both hands for weapons, but for right now, this is what we're working with. And why don't we check out the stat screen? Here you have a much more complicated stat sheet. But none of these are really truly bugged, so that is actually pretty nice. All of the things do what you would probably expect. I don't feel the need to go super in-depth with this because it's a little bit less relevant than the original game, and with more variables, it just becomes a little bit more cluttered. So that's maybe a change I don't love, but I think it's fine to go a little bit more advanced with it, just for the sake of being able to have new hardware like the Super Nintendo, be able to hold more variables. Why is the king training the soldiers how to use the sword of dark side? We've already talked to you. And up here, we can see Sid in the top right. Let's go talk to him. And he's sleeping. It's the new engine. And he's just working in his sleep, pretty much. Buoyancy and its principles. More all-night work. He still feels young. Townfolk speak ill of soldiers and the king. My father often quarrels with them for that. So Sid is someone who is also loyal, while everyone else kind of suspects that bad things are going on. The Guide of World Birds and the History of Shipbuilding. Interesting books he's got on his shelf there. Let's check out in here. Rosa's mother. The king's become dreadful. I heard you did an awful thing in Mysidia. Don't drag Rosa into trouble, I beg you. Yeah, everybody seems to think that we're just gonna get Rosa in trouble or that we're not very nice to her. We don't seem like a very good guy at all. Wow, the Dark Knight. A bit scary, but cool. You know what? I am scary and cool. And what we're about to do here is probably the weirdest thing in this entire game. But this dancer is another one of the changes. In the Japanese version, when you talk to her, she chucks off her dress, revealing the fact that she's wearing a bikini. In this one, all of the dancers end up just being this sprite. So sort of the, I don't know, like reference to maybe partial nudity or something is removed. It's part of Nintendo's absolutely notorious censorship practices, at least stateside, back when this game came out. But let's talk to the dancer lady. Oh, the Dark Knight. Want to see something? Yes, I do. I don't even know what to make of that, but there are dancer ladies in lots and lots of the towns, and we are definitely going to check out all of their dances, because why wouldn't we? Now we're going to kind of navigate this little river here, and in here we're going to find some hidden chests, a couple of free tents. That's more tents than we're probably ever going to need, but free items are free items. I'm not going to complain about it. I want to swing around and talk to that old woman. And then I think we'll hit the item shop. That door at the west building in the town, it's the underpass to the Castle Baron. That is good to know. In fact, why don't we go check out the door that she's talking about right now? That's going to be right over here. And this one is locked too. And that's very interesting. And if you're thinking that may end up coming up again, you would be correct. But let's check out the item shop. Do not forget to take Cure 1, Heal, and Tent. It'll be tough outside of the town. And that is not entirely true. Cecil and Kain are pretty powerful, so we're really not going to have any problems at all. But if we talk to the shopkeep, we can see what he's got to sell. And now we've got Cure 1, Life, Tent, Carrot, Heal, and Ether. And so Heal is the first one I want to talk about. In the Japanese version of this game, each status ailment came with its own unique item to fix it. So for example, Petrify, you'd need a gold hairpin. Poison, you would need... you know what, I don't even remember what it's called. But the point is it worked fairly similar to the first game where Petrify was soft potions, Poison was pure potions, and they just simplified all of that in this game into heal potions, which were originally called remedies. They were much more expensive, but they cure all status ailments, and frankly, that's one of the changes that I don't really mind. I don't think it adds very much to have to carry around all this cluttered, different unique items for different status ailments, although making it cheaper does certainly make the game easier. I feel like they could have maybe made these more expensive, and that would have added to a little bit of the challenge. And speaking of sort of eliminating most of the challenge of this game, all item shops sell ethers, which recover MP. These originally were extremely rare items in the game and were not sold anywhere. Now, they are, of course, 10,000 gil apiece, but the fact that you can just recover your MP pretty much whenever you want for the entirety of the game takes a lot of tension out of the possible decision-making you might do, where you'd be a lot more tied to visiting inns to recover your MP, whereas in this game you just have items on you all the time that you can pretty much recover your MP. Now, that does tamp down the challenge and some of the strategy and decision-making, but I think it does kind of ramp up the fun factor, because casting your spells is fun. Not casting your spells is not fun, and I think it's just that simple. But that is an interesting change, so I did want to mention it, and then the remainder are fairly obvious. Life will revive you from KO, tents allow you to recover MP on the overworld, and carrots are the last one I want to talk about. I believe someone in the training room is going to mention this to us, but since we're here, we'll talk about it now. These will summon the big chocobo, who serves as sort of an item box storage in chocobo forests. We're not going to need any of this stuff, so let's get out of here. Oops, I did not mean to buy that, but you know what? It's going to be fine. I still have to get used to the buttons. I map them differently when I'm playing on emulators, so I may make mistakes like that from time to time, but it's really not going to be a big deal. Alright, let's talk to everyone in the training room. Do you know chocobos? They're ostrich-like birds which can be used as transportation. Yep, that's right, they're like mounts in this game, and I feel like if you're watching this, you probably already know what a chocobo is, so I'm not going to talk that to death. They live in the round-shaped forests. You can catch and ride chocobos using the A button, just like talking. While riding chocobos, you don't encounter enemies. You can't go inside of places with chocobos. Get out first by pushing the A button. And that sentence is a little confusing. What they're trying to tell you is that you can't enter towns or dungeons while riding a chocobo. You have to dismount. And remember, chocobos will return to their woods when freed. So yeah, once you dismount, your chocobo returns to the forest where you got it. When your items get too many to carry, go to the big chocobos and leave items in their care. When it smells like chocobos, use carrot. Big chocobos will surely appear, and that's talking about that carrot that we accidentally bought. When walking, only one person will be shown. You can select that person by the R button. Let's try that out right now. We could have Kain, and he has a pretty spiky, badass sprite. But I like to have Cecil lead the party, but you can choose whoever you want, and it doesn't end up changing your actual battle formation, which we'll talk about soon enough. You can make a total of 4 saves. You'd better make more than 2 saves in case a save should be lost. Specifying where to save the data, your family can enjoy the game in turn. And I do wish that my family enjoyed this game. I am the only one in my family who plays games like this, but let's move on. When you hear a new name, you'd better make note of its direction. Same as maps, the upper part means north and lower south. Left means west, and to the right is east. That's right, they don't think Americans know cardinal directions. And now, to be fair, they might be right, because if I'm not already oriented, if somebody gives me directions using those, I'm like, I don't know what that is. So they might be right about that. To make a record of your journey is called save. You can make a save on the field map or save points all around the world. And we are going to be using that because we are playing on a physical cartridge, not an emulator, so I do not have the benefits of save states, so I will need to use the save function judiciously. It is better to save before taking a rest or going to unknown places. Even if your party is wiped out, you may restart from the point in which you saved. You can change your name by talking to the man on the left. He's everywhere. Find him in towns. Yep, and that is the naming way, and we could use him to change the names of any of the characters we would like to, but we're not going to do that. I like the original names. I kind of went past that very well. Anytime if you change your mind. Now let's head on upstairs. And that's right, there's a whole nother room of these guys, so let's get right through it. You need to decide quickly in battles. If you're not confident or not used to it yet, use the menu screen to reduce the battle speed, and that is a big one. This game is the first game in the series to implement the active time battle system. And what that means is that battles are no longer fully turn-based. If you're just sitting there, the enemies will still get to take actions, so you need to kind of plan ahead and think on your feet, but it's a really, really good fit, I think, for a game. The original Final Fantasy was heavily based on D&D, and having battles be fully turn-based in D&D makes a lot of sense because you need to do things like roll dice. But for a video game, it makes a lot more sense for it to feel more like a fight. Like if I'm just standing there, a goblin is going to punch me in the face. He's like, "What are you doing? I thought we were in a fight, so I'm going to hit you." And it's really fantastic, it feels really good, and we'll see that when we get in our first fight. Recklessness often proves to be damaging. When you are losing a battle, don't hesitate to run away by pushing the L and R buttons at the same time. You should move the people with less HPs to the back by using the change command. During the battles, you can change the front and rear row by pushing the left of the control pad when in turn. By pushing to the right, you can select parry. Change we will use maybe once in this whole playthrough, and parry we will pretty much never use, unless in very, very weird scenarios. But let's check out the formation right now. So if I move Kain down one, he will be in the back row, where he will receive half damage and deal half damage. You have a total of 5 slots, and in this current formation, we would have 3 in the front and 2 in the back. There are short-lived situations where you may want 2 in the front and 3 in the back, but those are few and far between, but we will use it when it comes up. Don't keep running away from your enemies. You may drop some money when escaping from them. That's right, you run away from monsters in this game so fast that your money actually falls out of your pockets. There is a cost to running away. There are spells which can be used for all. In the battles, you cast the spell on all enemies by pushing the control pad to the left and all allies to the right. On the menu screen, you can cast spells to all by pushing either left or right. So that is a pretty big difference from older games where all spells can be used on all enemies, or at least most of them can, at the penalty of it being less effective. So if you just use it on one, it will deal more damage. If you use it on all, it will hit all of them, but deal slightly less damage because it is divided among the enemy formation. Monsters like zombies and skeletons receive great damage from fire and cure magic. And that's a really cool one to me, replacing the sort of really narrow harm spell from the first game with you being able to cast Cure on undead enemies, where Cure is useful all the time, and Harm is really, really narrow, so it's a way of keeping that mechanic intact, where white mages have a specific spell that they can use to deal damage to groups of undead, but the spell is never completely useless, and I think that's an ingenious change. Monsters living in water are weak against the attacks of thunder. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Some monsters have their weak points. Monster of fire is weak against coldness. Monster of ice is weak against fire, see? Yeah, we already get that. Come on. You can equip certain weapons on a certain hand. There are some who can equip on both hands, though. And let me tell you, the people that can use weapons in both hands are just the coolest. They're all my favorite characters. Be careful not to run out of the arrows. Bows won't, but arrows will be gone when used. That's right, so our bow and arrow using characters, you do need to actually manage the number of arrows you have in your inventory, but it's not super expensive, so it doesn't tend to come up that you'd run out, but it is worth keeping an eye on. Some weapons can be used as items during battles. You have to equip them on the hand first, though. Change or supply new weapons during battles, select and change within the item window, and that right there. So let me show you this. In all menus, you can move stuff around, and in battle, you're actually moving things between menus, and what ends up happening there is that it is the source of most of the glitches in the game. Things like overflow or underflow glitches, where you can underflow your MP and have infinite MP, or duplicate weapons, things like that. And now we're not going to abuse any of those things, but I will show them and how they work. Because the poor SNES doesn't do a very good job of keeping all those things in memories, and it gets confused and thinks two things are in the place where one thing was. If you want to read the word slowly during battles, reduce the battle message speed. We won't need to do that. I think the speed is just fine as it is. And one last thing I want to talk about with these training rooms is that these were greatly, greatly expanded for the USA version. They end up being in lots of different towns, and they even went so far as to change the actual layout of towns in order for you to get more training room tips. The worst example of that is that they actually eliminated a developer room that was like a cool Easter egg for more training room stuff. And here we are at the Chocobo Forest right outside of town. White Chocobos, if I can catch this one. Nope, I ended up in a different Chocobo. Let's get off. There we go. Okay, let's try and talk to this White Chocobo again. Those will recover your MP. They end up being very useless in this version of the game because you have ethers on you all the time, but they would be another way of recovering your MP outside of town, which would have been actually a really big deal in the original version. And we'll find some invisible chests in here that will contain carrots, which is exactly why we didn't need to buy that carrot, but I'll get over it someday. And then right up at the top is where it smells like chocobos. If I were to use one of these carrots, I could summon the big chocobo and leave some items with him, but I don't usually end up having too many items, but we might end up storing some uniques that we find along the way with him instead of selling them. I think that might be fun to do. And now, let's get on a chocobo. And chocobos, A, have an amazing theme song, and B, can traverse over water. But we can take it right to the cave, and not have to deal with any random encounters. We'll be dealing with plenty in the cave, so don't you worry about that. And right off the bat is our first dungeon crawl, the Misty Cave. Every song is just so amazing. And here's our first look at the battle system. Kain is a Dragoon, so he can jump, and that's exactly what we're going to have him do. And a big quality of life improvement is that if I were to kill that imp that Kain is going to land on, he would just attack the very next thing. He wouldn't attack the space where they were, the way that it operates in the first game. It does remove some element of, I would say, paying attention and strategy in battles, but overall, it's not like anyone misses that ineffective battle prompt. Wow, 52? That was actually quite a bit. And so Kain's unique ability, Jump, is sort of a piece of flavor text that makes the characters a little bit more memorable. They all have a unique attack. And Cecil has one that was removed called Darkness. Why they removed that one, I don't know. But there are actually a number of those that were removed, and some of them I actually agree with, and some of them I don't, and Cecil's I definitely don't agree with. And a mysterious voice says, "Go back." And Cecil says, "Who is it?" But there's no reply. And I will eventually start cutting out some of these random battles, but I think for now, I just kind of want to enjoy our very first dungeon crawl, and just kind of hang out, and kind of get a sense of how the active time battle system works. Because it definitely feels a lot more frantic, I would say. You know, it feels more like an actual fight, and it's just fantastic. And just a really, really great game design idea. There are going to be a few treasure boxes in here, so let's make sure we grab all of those. So many tents. How many tents did we end up with? We have 6 tents? That's just so many. And what will we find in here? Another cure potion? That's good, because I'm probably going to want to use one of those. Now, Kain is a really powerful party member for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is that the jump command leaves him not in battle, so he can't be hit. It is slightly slower than just his fight command, but it does more damage, and that trade-off is definitely worth it, especially considering the fact that he can't take damage. It's just a really, really good command. Let's go ahead and use one of our cure potions. We have millions of them. And a voice says, "Leave now." Kain says, "Is it a monster?" "One's from Baron." Kain asks, "Who are you?" Return now, and I will not harm you. Kain says, show up. And do we still wish to go on? Yes, we do. We've got a mission, and we're going to stick to it. We must deliver this package to the village of Mist. Then I must. The mist is gathering, and here we go. And we get the awesome boss battle music, and this is going to be a tutorial boss. This becomes something of a series tradition, at least for a while. And if I had to guess, I would say the point of this is to kind of teach you about the active time battle system. And I'll explain why in just a little bit. Oh, I'm just jamming out to this song. It's so good. And right about now, we're gonna wait. And right there, the monster's gonna turn into mist. And just for the sake of illustration, I'm gonna go ahead and attack it. And we're gonna miss, and it's gonna reply with a cold mist attack. And the game says, do not fight now. Fighting when mist will freeze you with breath. And it's kind of like, do you think it's trying to communicate with us? But what it's trying to tell you is that right now we just want to do nothing until it changes back into its dragon form. And I guess this is supposed to teach you that even though we're not doing anything, the fight is not paused, the monsters are still going to take actions. And now we're going to get ready to fight. And try and take this dragon down. It's a really weird tutorial battle, though. Like, that's my theory on why it exists, but, like, this sort of fight kind of never comes up again. Except for the first one in lots of the games. Maybe, like, one more time? It seems like it might be an important thing to know, but then it just, like, doesn't really end up mattering. And down goes the Dragon Mist. And for our trouble, we get 200 gil and 350 XP, and I think we should level up, yep. And so the dragon is defeated. Let's head to the village Mist. Here we are, we brought the package. And the package opens automatically. And that does not look good at all. That's right, the package we were sent here with was designed to burn this place to the ground. Kain says, what? We brought this package to burn the village? Why? And a little girl says, Mommy, Mommy! And Cecil says, who's that? My mom's dragon fell, so my mom did too. Oh my god, it looks like we killed this child's mother. And Kain says, I've heard of the people with the power to summon monsters. They are callers. Cecil says, we defeated the dragon, so her mother is gone also. You've beaten my mother's dragon. And Cecil says, we didn't mean to do this to your mother. His Majesty wanted to wipe out the callers of this village and used us to do it. And Cecil says, incredible. Kain says, I'm afraid we must do away with her too. And Cecil says, Kain, she's just a kid. Kain says, you dare renounce your loyalty to His Majesty? Cecil says, forget it. Never again will I follow such an order. Kain says, well, Cecil, I knew you'd say so. I won't let you do it alone. Kain? Kain says, I owe His Majesty much. Still, I cannot disgrace the dragoons. Cecil says, then will you? And Kain says, but Baron is the mightiest country in the world. It's impossible for us to challenge his might alone. We must gather other countries. And you know, we must rescue Rosa. And Cecil says, thank you, Kain. And Kain says, not for your sake. That's right, he has his own reasons for doing this. And he says, let's get out of here fast. What about that girl? And Cecil says, we can't leave her here alone. Listen, it's dangerous here. Come with us, okay? And the girl, understandably, says to her mother's murderer, no. Kain, let's take her. The girl says, no, go away. And Cecil says, wait, please. Go away, I hate you. I hate you all. And the young girl is going to summon Titan. I'm not going to fight her, come on. She says, no. And Titan is going to cast Quake on us for big fat damage. But that's not all. It's going to cause a giant earthquake. Oh, she's all right. Kain? Kain? Kain! I can't stay here any longer. I have to escape from Baron with this girl. And that's right, Kain is gone. He fell through the earth in the earthquake. So, just for a little recap, in the opening of this game, we killed some white and black mages, we got fired, we killed a little girl's mom, and now we lost our best friend. It is a heavy, heavy opening. And I think that's going to do it for today, so I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Final Fantasy Friday.